Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Timeless Gamer Show, where our games and our bodies may grow and update, but our gaming experiences will forever remain. Hey, it's timeless, and we are now live in Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And you can still check our old videos by going to our YouTube channel, Timeless Gamers Show. Check out our website as well, timelessgamers.com. And you can still listen to us by going to all of the major audio streaming platforms out there by just searching Timeless Gamer Show. And we would like to thank uh, our co-affiliates, Streamyard and BitMap Books, and our cohorts from the Retromancy Incorporated Studio.ph and Shuffle Emporium. And to the guys, of course, of the Sega Mega Masters podcast and the guys from the Retro Gamers Collectors of the Philippines. So previously on the Timeless Gamer Show, we did D&D. All right, Dungeons and Dragons. Such a short campaign, a very interesting one. I might add. All thanks to Sir Eric Wahlberg,
You all
of
got dressed
course.
up. You all got dressed up, I
Oh
saw.
yeah, so Sir Eric Wahlberg was our dungeon master. He came up with the he came up with a campaign tailored fit for the uh, for us. Lots of tomfoolery,
Nice.
really, and the VIP we got Sir Joel right there. Sir Joel's character was a VIP of that
Oh my
campaign.
goodness. Okay. Just a well placed, let me just say this, a well placed kick to the nuts solves every problem. Okay.
Okay, in the nuts. All right. So if you guys are curious on how we fared on that campaign, you know what to do. For
Mm.
this episode, guys, vroom, 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 rev up your engines. We are talking about racing games. Oh, not just any regular racing games. The good old fashioned, old school racing games
Hmm.
from the PlayStation One and below.
Hmm.
And we thank Sir Joel for coming up with this idea. And this topic has been brewing on the back burner, wink, wink, for the longest time as well. Um, but before all of that, let's introduce the crew for the pit crew uh, for uh, for this episode. A lot of driving puns, just so you know, ladies and
Mm.
gentlemen. So we got Sir Joel representing New Jersey.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are. This is Joel Baklit of the Banyagang Native Facebook page, also on Kick and on Twitch, coming at you with racing games all throughout the ages. We're going to be discussing that all here. But all our hard limit is PlayStation 1 games. If you guys like the episode, let us know in the chat so that we can continue with the topic in a future episode of PS2 games above. Back to you, John.
Thank you for that, Sir Joel, representing the East Side. Now let's go to the West Side of things. Returning back to the show from California, Sir Jose.
Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Jose, Dark Gothic Fate on Twitch and stream, Facebook, founder of QCFP. Just here to talk racing games with the Timeless Gamer crew.
And of course, representing UK is all okay. Returning back to the show from the Sega Mega Masters, Sir Viraj. Yay, he's back.
Well, glad to be back. It's been some time, but it should be a really interesting episode when we talk about the early stages of racing games and how they became quite an interesting genre when games went from 2D to 3D. So I'm looking forward to that. Back to you,
All
Sir.
right, thank you for that, Sir Viraj. And of course, um, for our next segment right now will be gaming news. So what's the news out there, Sir Joel?
All right. Well, the most recent gaming news are the most recent gaming news that we are aware of that is slightly controversial is the fact that Ubisoft has shuttered the um, the development team of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It For those of you not in the know, Prince of Persia is a well-known and well-liked platforming action series of games, starting with a well-respected developer called whose name was Jordan Mechner, and it was famous for rotoscoped animation way back in DOS days, and has been continuing with different games and different styles throughout the years. The most recent game was Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, which featured, ironically enough, not the Prince of Persia as the main character. It turns out it was his one of his royal guard, and people did not seem to take very kindly to the change in main character and feature of the game itself. People have come to love the very idea of playing a protagonist who is actually the Prince of Persia. The idea is of this game seems to have been that the Prince of Persia has been kidnapped, and it's up to his royal guard to come and rescue him using the usual shtick of platforming and fighting enemies. They tried to, in my personal opinion, they tried to do the damsel in distress trope and reverse it, except it didn't really work out. So Ubisoft has turned the development team of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown loose because reportedly of low sales figures for them to focus on different games, upcoming games of Ubisoft. Opinions, everybody.
I remember when we did our reaction. What did I think? I saw we saw this during the Switch reveal
Yeah. Mhm.
showcase from I think was back in January or
Yes,
March, was it? It was
I believe
during
so.
the first quarter of 2024,
Mhm.
and I remembered the game looks good in their game in their trailer for its
Mhm.
game. It did look good for
Mhm.
me. Although, like I said before, it's not necessarily a game that I would pick up on a whim.
Mhm.
But considering for what it was, I think it was pretty good. So I think it just comes down to the core fan base of the Prince of Persia series, whether or
Mhm.
not it is it is something that they would have supported based on the changes that they've seen,
Mhm.
or it's just a word of mouth. Uh, to me, Prince of Persia is just one of those very niche titles
Mhm.
that it's not really that not really clamoring for for a general appeal.
Mhm.
It's
Well,
just for those who really grew up with the franchise. To
you
me,
say that,
anyway.
but I understand where you're coming from. But I remember when it was like what Sir Joel said, it was the first sort of real animated sort of game which used rotoscoping. And it was really the first fully animated. I don't want to use the word cinematic platformer, but is that the correct term for it?
Yeah, that's it. It applies. Yes.
And I think as time, when they reinvented the brand on PlayStation 2, we're talking the Sands of Time era. That was the
Oh yeah.
golden age of this franchise. You know, when they made that trilogy, and they were consistently great. You had I think, was it Warrior Within or what, Wrath or something? I can't remember the name
Yes.
of the three
Warrior
others.
Within, Prince of Persia, Warrior Within, and the two the twin thrones, two thrones, if I remember correctly.
I remember selling those when I worked in the shop that sold these games, and they were very popular. People would buy them day one. They didn't even wait
Mhm.
to go on sale or platinum or wherever. And they did go platinum, I believe. I remember the first one did, but they were very popular. And I think the problem is when you have a franchise and you put it down for a while and you try to pick it back up, people forget it or people fondly
Right.
remember games. And I think it's a shame. It is a crying shame because I think Prince of Persia does deserve another lease of life. I think it needs to be done properly. It's a shame what's happened. I do think this is a shame. I know people have their reservations with Ubisoft and how they've behaved with the whole, once you download the games digitally, you kind of lose it afterwards and you can't re-download it again. I know there's that practice as a brand, but if we're talking about the art and this franchise, this is a shame, and I'm sad to hear it.
Is it because it's Ubisoft? It's a Ubisoft game automatically. Oh, people think, oh, this is bad.
Not necessarily. No.
Ubisoft and EA have been tainted with this brush of they're
Yeah.
mainstream. They just care about money. The quality of the game is questionable.
It's like if you're like, for example, if you're going to announce a Final Fantasy game and you see EA in there, oh fuck, it's EA.
Yeah,
Nope.
some
No,
people do
you're
react
right.
that way.
There's a branding. There are things that are the brand is synonymous with. So with EA Sports, yeah, hell yeah, we're going to play this game. But
Mm.
with other games, you're like, okay, are EA going to really like there was Medal of Honor and stuff like that EA have under their belt, and they're cool games, but and franchises. So with EA, you get hot and cold. But what I think with me and EA, it's a case of they bought all these other companies and they've expanded to the point where they're so big now. And what I didn't like about EA is there's a company called Westwood Studios that I loved, and they made the Command and Conquer games, and they bought them out. And what happened? The Command and Conquer games weren't as good when they were just left alone as Westwood. Stuff
Yeah.
like
When you
so,
were in Westwood, yes.
so stuff like that, I never really liked about EA. That's one practice that I didn't like about it. But EA is going to be EA, and that's the way it is. I remember when they published the Harry Potter games, like ordered all of them when they came out. And I remember when Prison of Azkaban came out for PlayStation 2, the company I worked for actually boycotted selling EA games because EA wanted us to sell their games at £50 on release, and we said no because they're reducing our margins because they're getting too big for their feet. So EA's corporate practices from back then, I wasn't really a fan of. I don't know what they're like now, but look, they are a big enterprise, and they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, like video games company out there in terms of what they're publishing, biggest publisher out there. And Ubisoft are just as big as well. I think there was rumors that those two are going to merge or something like that years ago. I can't remember. But
Yeah.
so look, taking the big corporate side apart and just focusing on the art form or the franchise that make their brand known. So Ubisoft were known to make good Prince of Persia games on the PlayStation. It would be nice if they could have made a good one now on the artist side of things, not so much the branding, but that's what they're known for, and it's a shame this has happened. That's why I'm a bit sad that this has sort of not come out, because people like Prince of Persia. Like, I think nobody hates the brand. I mean,
No.
we all like Persia. We can all enjoy it, so we'd like to have seen another one, and that's what I'm saying.
No, the fact is, I think, on a personal note, I think it's because of the fact that people have really been anticipating a remake of the Prince of Persia trilogy. That was really the highlight of the series.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good
remaster
interconnected
HD.
story. Mhm, yeah.
Has the remaster in HD done for it yet?
They did, yes. Well, it was more of an upscale than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, but a full-on remake, like the way that Final Fantasy did with 7,
Okay.
that would be amazing. But the people have been clamoring for that. Mhm.
I think it can work if it's done well. To be honest, I think everyone talks about it's remake or re-break these days. You can break a franchise by remaking it. So
Yeah,
as long as there's a lot of care done to it and respect to the original sort of game, I think it'll be done really well. But sad news, I think. Sad news.
well, Jose, you've been a little quiet. How
Yeah.
do you like the Prince of Persia series?
Honestly, it's like one of those series that I just never got around to playing. Like, I
Okay.
own the games because you see them cheap here and there.
Mm.
And I've always been meaning to try them. I always heard good things about the trilogy you guys were talking about, Sands of Time, Two
Yeah.
Thrones. And I remember hearing about this, and I was like, oh, like I there hasn't been a Prince of Persia game in a while. Like, that's cool.
Mm.
Like, it's always nice to see old IP come back.
Yeah.
And this is just unfortunate news that it just didn't hit. I would have loved to try it. I might still try it. But
Which
as far-
platform did they release the last Prince of Persia?
Is this one, the
PS3?
Lost Crown?
No, I mean the last Prince of Persia title that they released.
The last one. The
I
Sands
know
of Time and one
I think
Prince
it's
of Persia
PS3 and
came out
Xbox
on PS3. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, they had
PS3,
one on
right?
360. It was just Prince of Persia.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. And a few releases on the on the PSN,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and
it's just a
GOG.
rehash of a PS3 game anyway.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's like what? How many years now? And then they're going to release a Prince of Persia game now. It's like almost 10 years since the last one.
That's true. Yeah, like Viraj said, you leave an IP out in the cold for a long time, people tend to kind of lose momentum for it. But yes, that is the news for the week. And yeah, Prince of Persia Lost Crown didn't make money. Devs got disbanded. Sorry to say, it's a swing and a miss for Ubisoft again. All right, back to you, John.
Again.
Mhm.
It's just a little dig to Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Get your act together. All right. So for our next segment, we like to call Show and Tell, in which The crew will now show some of their acquisitions that they got for the last few days and tell something about them, whether it's digital, physical, whether it's video games, toys, uh, music, paraphernalia, anything regarding the pop culture, nerdy pop culture. Go on ahead, guys. What you got?
I think we'll have Viraj begin this one.
Oh,
Viraj.
man, all
What
right,
you got?
okay. So this is very niche. I wouldn't call it pop culture at all, to be honest. It's incredibly niche, and it's definitely a. I think this is one for Sir Drew. Sadly, he's not here. Yeah, because he's in Japan. He's our man from Japan. This is. I'll talk about it first, and I'll show you what it is. This is a mini console of sorts that was only exclusive in Japan. You can only buy it in Japan. I've had to use Zen Market just to get it, and it's understandable why they had it in Japan only, because it's a mini of the Sharp X68000. Now, for those of you who know, how many of you know what I'm talking about? Put your hands up in the panel. No? Okay.
I know it is.
no.
I know of it. I've never played one.
I know the brand Sharp.
Yeah. I had a Zaurus before the
brand.
PDA. Yeah.
Sharp,
I had a TV Sharp.
Sharp is a big company in Japan. I mean, they invented LCD technology, for crying out loud. A lot of people forget that. But they created also a sort of super microcomputer back in those days. So whilst here in the West, we had our Commodore 64s and the Amiga 500s, they had the Sharp X68000. Now, this computer was very expensive anyway. It used the Motorola X68000 chipset, which the Sega Mega Drive and many other applications used that chip in there, and it was a powerful processor for what it was. And it also had a larger memory than the Mega Drive, and this is what we're talking about here. A lot of arcade developers used this computer to make games in the arcade. Capcom Street Fighter was developed on this computer. The CPS-1 games were made on that. Maybe some of the CPS-2. Sega and Konami also made games for this device, and I'll show you it now. This is a miniature version of it. I'm just going to move my machine down and to the left. There you go. You can see it there. That's the monitor. So I got the computer edition. I got the baby monitor with it. This is actually the unit. Okay, there's a little handle that pops up. There we go. You can carry it like the original. The original had these, I think they're 5.5-inch floppy disks. But again, you have in its place we have SD cards, and you can purchase games on. This is Gradius. It came with it. So you have that. It has its own little volume switch. It's got a headphone
Like
socket.
a floppy disk. It's like a mini floppy disk.
You got
In this
headphone
context.
there. You got the volume control there. The monitor has its own power and brightness and adjustment and volume control. At the back, you have 4 USB sockets, so you can put a number of input devices. It came with a full mechanical keyboard as well, so you can use the human AI in there. It has this control. It's probably the best controller I've ever had on any mini consoles in terms of the build. It is very well made, not creaky at all. The D-pad is so smooth. I've never felt a D-pad so good on a mini, right? The buttons have a good throw to it. You have auto fire buttons. You do have start and select buttons, but they're here at the bottom.
What the hell?
Yeah. And you also have L and R buttons here at the top. So it has multiple applications. So that's the
I was
control.
about to say, Viraj, that looks like the old Japanese Famicom controller, but with different layout. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Smoother edges. You've got turbo fire buttons. It's actually, in my opinion, the best 2-button style control I've ever had. Yeah. It has a mouse as well, and this is really cool. The mouse it's an optical mouse. It came with a little cover.
Ah, nice. Okay.
And also the top clips off as well if you want to play games with a trackball.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool. So you have that. And also you got the clicker, you got a roller, you got a button on the side here, button on the side there. So the mouse also has, excuse me, multiple applications. This thing here is my cyber stick, and you can purchase this as an accessory. I bought it for an accessory for that thing over. Well, it's actually for my Mega Drive Mini 2, but it also works on the Taito Egret 2 Mini. Now, this was manufactured by a company called Zwicky. Now, Zwicky is like a big company that not a lot of people know about, but Zwicky actually made the board on the Mega Drive Mini. They worked with Nintendo for the NES and SNES Classic Mini. And they also did the board for the Taito Egret 2 Mini and the Astro City Minis that I have in my bay here. So Zwicky said, look, we're going to make our own Mini, and we're going to get the rights to make the X68000, because this is the deluxe computer of the time. And one thing I forgot to mention is the X68000 Mini is the best 16-bit can get for the time, because the games that they made in the arcade, for example, like the Afterburn in the arcade, or the one on the X68000, you could argue looks better because that computer could handle more assets, and the sound is sublime with the FM synthesis chips on there. Same with Castlevania. If you ever play the Castlevania on this device, it's the best version of the first game. It's really good, and the sound, again, it had 3 different soundtracks to it in FM synths and MIDI, so you had a variety of soundtracks. Again, Space Harrier on this. All these 16-bit arcade-style games that were ported on like consoles and home computers. The X68000, you could argue the arcade port, well, the port of this could actually be very well said to be superior than the arcade, and it offered something else. So I'm excited to actually look into library. I only got it a few days ago because it's on sale, and I got it on Zen Market. But so far, I've just got to get the update done on it to be able to do something. So I've had some problems with that. It isn't for everyone. It's more or less it is a mini you buy to play with and tinker with. It's not like a something you already have things pre-programmed in. You have to do the programming for it or the bits for it. So you have to be a person that can engineer things and do things, follow instructions and all that stuff. You can buy games for it, but you're going to have to like do the update first. And it's not an easy mini to use because it's Japanese, but there are a community of people now. It's been out on the market for like a year and a bit now. So there's a community of people in the West who have purchased this that are helping me play around with this, because I was a bit taken aback by it when it came out, because I liked it, but it's got no real English language support. But there are a community that can help translate certain things in English. But I'll tell you what, it is a wonderful piece of kit. It is a wonderful piece of hardware, and the way it's built. Yes, of course, it's made in China, like all these things, but there has been a Japanese process in how it was developed, and I like it. I really do love it. It's actually becoming my favorite toy. I still need to basically load an entire build onto it, because you can put 30. You got 32 gig. I've got some 32 gig SD cards ordered, and I've got an image on there where I can just put a lot of the games on there that are the best that were on there, and I'm gone because a friend of mine's done it already, and he's already sent it to me. So it's always good to have good friends. But yeah, going back to the whole point, wonderful, unique mini. But it's very niche. It's not for everyone. But I just thought I'd show it to you guys, because this is the sort of nerdy stuff I'm into. It's incredibly nerdy. Incredibly nerdy. This is not mainstream or popular at all. But and it's expensive. This is probably the most expensive mini I've ever bought. Okay, so it was on sale from equivalent Japanese yen to pounds. It was on sale from £600 to £480. Okay, £480 is still a lot of money. And even then, they wouldn't ship to the UK on Amazon Japan, so I had to use Zen Market. So that £480, that money I was saving went into the shipping. So there's your £600 that I paid for it anyway. And then there's tax. The tax man came after me, so that came up to £700. Eye-watering, isn't it? But I knew that was going to happen, but I was happy to bite the bullet because I really wanted one. So unless you really want it, I wouldn't say you should buy it. That's my thoughts on that. Right, that's my show and tell. Back to you guys, unless you've got any questions on this contraption I have.
Tell me that you have disposable income without telling me you have disposable income.
Pretty much.
I got my pennies for this. I haven't got disposable income. No, I'll tell you what it is. You guys know that I have a side business called Bygone Games. You can follow me on Twitter, Bygone Games UK. Where I buy and sell video games at relevant gaming markets. And I've been doing this for a while, working hard doing it, but I never really bought anything for myself. And what happens when you become a gamer and a collector, and then you become a reseller, your mind gets rewired and you stop caring so much about looking after yourself. And the game then becomes, what can I sell to make money on? But then I thought, no, I want something for myself. I'm making all this money. Let me have something for myself. So I bought this item for myself. And it's something I did because I thought I made some profit here. Why don't I just put it towards this? It's not all the profit. It's just something I've made. I thought, let's get something for myself, for me. I want something for me. That's what it is. It's not because I've got disposable income.
And that encapsulates our philosophy as collectors and as gamers, adult collectors and gamers. Not necessarily collectors and gamers of adult games, but yeah, it encapsulates our philosophy of delayed gratification. It's all the stuff that we wanted when we were kids. We just never had the money to afford it. Now we are collecting all of it.
Yeah. So, Joe, if I had that much disposable income, I would have probably bought it day one. But I waited for a year for it to go on sale, so I could, even though it's expensive, it would be more expensive if I'd bought the day one because it would be 600 plus another 100 plus the tax, which would have put it over 800. So it's still a lot of money. This is still a lot of money, but not as much as it would have been when I got it on release. And I do think, and this is another point I want to raise, gentlemen, and anyone listening, that when a new console comes out, it might make sense to wait because you might get a better deal later on because you'll have more games that come out for it, more support for it later on. In fact, unless you're like an enthusiast or want to be part of that innovatory band customer, you're not really getting a good deal because you're the one who's funding the project, but you're not getting anything back for it. Now, there's quite a number of games that have been released to this, a lot of support for it. It makes sense. On day one, there was nothing. It was bare bones, and you're paying a lot of money for it. Why? You buy a games console on release, there's hardly any games on it. You might as well wait a year and get a better deal and get a bundle with all of it. It's that kind of discussion that we're having. I still paid a lot of money for it because it's a very niche product. Yeah, but
I got another one. Tell me you don't care about the future by telling me what you just bought in the present.
well, I hate machine. I really care. I really don't care. You're right. There's nothing. There are some games that I'm looking forward to, like the Switch 2 is coming out soon, and I'm mildly excited for that only because it's got one game that I know that's going to come out of it, which is Metroid Prime 4, which should have come out on the Switch. To be honest, Nintendo lied to me. But but I like to buy things that I'm interested in. I'm very retro. I'll put my hands up to it. I'm more retro than I am new age gaming, and we've had this discussion countless times on this channel, which is new age gaming. You pay a premium for it. It's subscription based gaming. You download games. You got DLC, all this other stuff that you've got to sort of stay on top of. And for a man like myself, who's a working man, and we're all working people here, it's a lot to stay on top of, and we all have busy lives. What I like about the retro games, even though this computer's expensive and what it is, these are games that are like greatest games I can pick up and play. It's a 2-hour session, and I can put it down. It's not eating too much into my time. So that's my, I don't want to use the word justification, my rationalization for this behavior.
And ultimately, that's what it boils down to. It's a balance between time, money, and effort. So yeah, that's basically Viraj's what's the right word for it? His that not MacGuffin. What's the right term for it? The one that you've always been looking for, but you never got the chance to get. What's the right word for it? I completely forgot. Your unicorn. Anyway, somebody in the chat will definitely mention it. You know.
I don't know.
Anyway, Jose, do you have any interesting acquisitions or anything that you want to show the class? Very quickly.
I did pick up 3 things. I got Forza Motorsport for
nice.
Talking about racing games.
Forza.
I got the Metal Gear collection.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
And then I got Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
Sparking Zero.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. How is it so different from the other Dragon Ball games? Please tell me.
It's shinier, no?
I heard that the gameplay was a callback to the old Tenkaichi series.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has a lot of different what if scenarios, so that's been fun to see.
Okay, very
what
cool.
What if scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and the nice thing about the Metal Gear one, the Metal Gear collection on that one, all the games are on the disc, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Not like the Switch version where I think only one is on the disc and you have to download the rest of it, which
that's bullshit.
Yeah, agreed, completely agreed.
They are dumb like that. With Spyro Reignited Trilogy, all the games are on the disc if you got the other console games. With the Switch one, they didn't want to pay more for the memory, so you have to download the rest of the games on the. I'm like, this is an outrage. Like, what's wrong? Like, why can't manufacturers just pay to get a better memory on the thing? It would cost them more for that better chip on the Switch. But come on,
because they can probably sell it back to you in the future just in case you lose access to it. I don't know.
Well,
all right. Thanks for that one, Jose. Actually, in keeping, I'll follow Jose's lead. In keeping with this week's theme, my games for this week, I got these a couple of months ago. I just never got the chance to actually show them off. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. I like the first game. The first game, Hot Wheels Unleashed, was a lot of fun. For those of you who collect Hot Wheels cars, the Matchbox type of cars, the Hot Wheels Unleashed series is a lot of fun because it does have that exhilarating feel of racing, but it does have the feel of actually racing your Matchbox cars or your Hot Wheels cars. And the next one is NASCAR Arcade Rush. Okay, now the nice thing about I've never really been a NASCAR fan. You know, you just go left all the time. But but this one,
I can turn that. Oh, Sir Jose, do you remember that South Park episode when Cartman pretended to be pretended to be a NASCAR driver?
Mhm.
No, I didn't see
Nah,
that one.
I'm not
Yeah.
really a race kid.
Eric Cartman was like he pretended to be a NASCAR driver, and one of the things that he said was I'm a NASCAR driver, and sometimes I go fast, I go fast, I go really fast, and sometimes go to the left sometimes.
Yeah, that's it. Also, I completely forgot the one with Will Ferrell, the movie. I haven't had the chance to see it, but I heard it was good. Um,
Yeah, Talladega Nights.
Talladega.
Yeah,
I still have
that's good.
That's
yeah.
about Cohen's in there.
The thing about NASCAR though is that it hasn't really appealed to me as a racing sport. But I figured out one thing about myself when it comes to racing games. I like a good mix of arcadey and not purely simulation type of racing game. So this kind of is up my alley. NASCAR Arcade Rush, because at least this one is not super simulation type where you go hyper realistic when it comes to your racing. I like my racing, but I like the game portion of my racing even more. So that is what I like. Two games, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged and NASCAR Arcade Rush. Those are my show and tells for the week. Joe, do you have anything this week?
Nothing really. I
For
mean,
goodness
just for the sake of today's theme, I said okay, because we're doing old school racing games from the PlayStation 1 and below. And I tried a few PS1 racing games. I tried some Saturn games, and I tried a few PC Engine games, of
Nice.
course.
Oh,
So I unearthed my PC Engine from the drawer. Got my EverDrive right here, and I played all of the all of the racing games. Well, except for one. Um, Racing games that the Turbo Graphics PC Engine had to offer, and I had a few, and I have some shit to say, but more on that later.
okay. Okay.
All right. Well, then I guess it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. Racing games. What is a racing game? For the purposes of this show, we are going to be talking about racing games that have. I'm limiting it to games that you are going to be racing against the clock. You are racing against AI enemies, or you are racing against somebody who is either split screen or couch co-op with you. So those are the limitations for this one. Also, as Joe mentioned earlier, the limit is PS1 games and below. So PlayStation 1, Sega Genesis, Super NES, Japanese Famicom, NES, Sega Master Systems, DOS games will apply, and arcade games are fair games. So I think games that are in the arcade definitely can qualify. So what other limitations I said? I think that's generally it. No GTA types,
No weapon.
no getting out of the car and blowing up prostitutes. Or having prostitutes blow you, and then
Ah,
another limitation is no weaponry in your racing game. So sad to say, Twisted Metal is not counted in this episode. Games that have but you can use your car to ram your opponent, so that qualifies. Your car as a weapon qualifies, but your car having weapons and guns, rockets, blue shells, out. Okay, so it's pure racing and maybe a little bit of destruction in your racing, but not weaponry destruction. So those are our limitations for the week. So That is our theme. And of course, the idea is speed. We do our very best to try to explain the excitement of what is the racing game, and actually delve into possibly why it hasn't really taken off as a genre in other parts of the world, specifically the Philippines. All right, so who wants to start off? Okay.
um,
I guess I will then. Okay, fine.
yeah.
All right, I'll do it. My choice, and another limitation is we are only going to be discussing one game for each one of us here. We can mention one other game in relation or in comparison to our main game, but that other extra game that we're going to be talking about, we cannot go into detail. Okay, so Joe, please have this ready. My main game for this episode is going to be a game on the PlayStation 1 called Colin McRae Rally 2.0.
Oh,
Colin McRae Rally 2.0 is a racing game that is focused on rally racing. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with rally racing, it is a type of race where you are
Mm,
driving a car rally style, or like in sections or in parts of an entire race. So you're not racing in one full tilt in one blow. You're not just sprinting from one end from start to finish all at the beginning. It's a series of races where you are doing your very best to get the best time all throughout. Each track is going to be a little different, and each run is going to be with maybe different parts of the track, or maybe different times of the day, different conditions of weather. This kind of racing will test your mettle as a driver, because it's got a lot of twists and turns. It's got a lot of challenges when it comes to the type of roads that you drive over, and even the types of weather that you have to drive through. Sometimes the weather is perfectly fine in the morning and it is a wonderful run, and the next run that you do is going to be later in the afternoon and it's raining cats and dogs, and it will test the limits of your driving skill. Now, what I like about Colin McRae Rally 2.0 on the PlayStation 1 it's because of the fact that the handling of the car is top notch. We're talking like I'm a driver myself. I drive cars often, and that's a reality of life here in the United States. It's something that you have to learn to live with. When I immigrated here from the Philippines, I was very much a public bus LRT kind of guy. I didn't really drive. I drove occasionally, but when I got here, I started to feel the driving. Um, I started to develop my driving, and Colin McRae Rally is as close to actual driving in terms of feel of the car as you possibly can get without it becoming a simulation. Now, one thing about me as a gamer is I like my sim games. I like my games being close enough to reality as possible, but I also like the arcadey part of the game itself. I like it being fun. I like it enjoyable, not like I twitch a little bit and the car spins out all the time. Now, Colin McRae Rally is, for lack of a better word, not as floaty, I guess, when it comes to other cars, but it also still has a certain heft and weight to it when you drive, because the speed you can be felt, but it doesn't feel like you are carrying a 2-ton monster strapped to your privates. Still, that's the idea of Colin McRae Rally. The nice thing about it is it's got great scenery. It's got great backgrounds. A lot of people have complimented Colin McRae Rally, the first one on the PlayStation 1 and Windows, if I remember correctly. But this one takes it up one more notch and better. The scenery is better. The sound is great. If you listen to the cars, another thing about racing games is the sound gives a little bit of plus to the authenticity of the experience. The sound of the engine of the rally cars is amazing, and it feels like it's right. The sound of the engines are do lend to the atmosphere of the game. Now, it some might say, "Well, Joe, why didn't you go for a racing game that had those amazing luxury cars, like test drive, like that, where you can drive a like a Pininfarina or a Lamborghini, yeah, I mean, I like those kinds of games. I like the test drive games. I like test drive 3, the Passion on DOS. Okay, that's going to be my second game. You drive Lamborghinis, Lamborghini Countachs and Pininfarinas. And the thing about the rally cars, though, is that these are the kinds of cars that you can get to drive as an average Joe. There's the Subaru Impreza, there's the Toyota, there's the Mitsubishi. These are brands that These are brands that you can see when you walk into a car dealership. And the thing about it is they just trick them out so that you can drive, with more horsepower, with better control, with stronger brakes and everything. But they are real cars that, as an average Joe, you will drive somewhere down the line in your life. And as a rally race, you can see how the car can be pushed to its limits as well. Not just the car, but also the man, the driver. You as a driver can see how far of your abilities can be pushed with rally racing. Now, a lot of people, even the Formula One racers, have said, we're not the best drivers in the world. The rally car drivers are. Their skill is top notch when it comes to driving. They are amazing, and our hats are off to you. F1 drivers will tip their hat to rally car drivers, and one of the very best of them was Colin McRae. Now, this game will be up your alley because of the fact that the graphics are great, the handling is great, the sounds are great, the scenery is great, and well, let me just say one thing. I appreciate a game that gives us a cockpit view of a drive of you as a driver, because this one, Colin McRae Rally, the graphics are mind blowing, and for its time, when you run it on your PlayStation 1, there is an option for you to drive from the cockpit view in your rally race, and it is quite mind blowing for somebody during that time. When you play that game, they can actually feel like you're driving an actual car. It's, some people might say, other games have done that, but in this game, Colin McRae Rally 2 has done it to almost perfection. So for those of you in the audio portion, if you guys want, you can watch footage of the game itself on YouTube. But yes, Colin McRae Rally 2 is my driving racing game of choice when it comes to games of that era. All right, that is my choice of driving game. Who wants to go next? Actually, comments first. Anybody?
First of all, I'd like to say I actually had the first version of this game on PC, and I really played the second one. But I can see the differences already. Is that, for example, you've got mud like sticking to the car. The first one I don't remember did that. I used to drive the Mitsubishi Lancer, so the cars are very much similar to what we had. I was a Lancer man. But with rally racing, you hear them say brake, turn left, hard right. Like got that British accent. They turn right, turn left, and it's telling you what to do as you're going there. So it can be quite an intense immersive experience. I played this with my brother on the PC. You'd have the keyboard, I'd have a little control, and we'd play around back in the day because the software came free with my PC because the game was already dated then. I did enjoy the game for what it was. I mean, okay, it wasn't. All right, here we go. It wasn't no Sega Rally, but Sega Rally is a different kind of rally racing game, and I love that a lot, to be honest. And I don't want to go into the whole comparisons because that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But this was they're both good rally games for the time. I think Colin McRae really did something more authentic to how rally racing was on a professional level, and you got the licenses for like the Mitsubishi, and you got Ford. You have all the brands in there. And it's a great game, and you can't really go wrong with it if you're a fan of rally racing.
I forgot to mention, actually, thanks very much for bringing that up, Raj. Rally racing has you driving with a navigator. A navigator is somebody who sits next to you and has what they call a road book. Somebody, yes, he is the one that actually tells you what's coming up with the route that you're going. You're not driving blind. You're not driving
Yes.
blind with your rally car. The guy, your navigator next to you, tells you in your road book, all right, we're turning left, we're turning right, we're coming up on a crest, and it's the level of turn is going to be level
Mhm.
4, which is
So
really tight,
the brake is your friend in this game. You have
Exactly.
to,
Yes, handbrake is your friend. Absolutely.
it's a tactical game. It's not just about going as fast as you can. And as a kid, obviously, my perspective will be probably different to yourself, Sergio, because I couldn't drive. I didn't have a clue about driving when playing this game. So obviously, you can drive in manual transmission and normal automatic. I don't want to drive in manual.
Somebody sitting right beside you telling you where to drive next. Yeah, that's my wife, I think.
Yes, that's
Straight right, turn left. Put your
Like a
brakes on.
navigator, really.
But it's really interesting because it's such an like you're there and you've got someone telling you how to drive, but it has its challenge and it's a strategic game in that regard.
Yes.
And that's, I'm not saying that F1 is also strategic. A lot of racing games have a lot of strategy to it, but it's not a racing game like prior to this. It's all about going as fast as you can. With some of the other games that you had, and there is strategy to us. I shouldn't really say that because all racing games have a strategy to them. It's knowing when to apply the brake and how hard you want to turn. And this game is definitely all about that. More so emphasis, and that's what rally racing looks like. But you obviously, as time has gone on, obviously I noticed that one that your blinkers was gone on the demo there. So there is damage that will happen to the car as well. So you want to be able to like maintain your car.
I forgot about that. You have to factor in damage in your car too. That's something that you have to consider because those twists and turns and possible collisions of the car will affect the performance. So
So the point I just wanted to finish, but I forgot to mention it. As a kid, you don't know how to drive. So as far as you're concerned, I want to go as fast as possible. So as far as you want to go as fast as possible, and the brake is like, it's going to brake, but it's not like a kart racer. This is a simulation, as you mentioned. You have to drive like you're really driving a car, and you don't know this until you learn to drive. So I'm not saying what I'm saying is you understand your limits more when you become a driver for real, and you become better at these sort of games. As a kid, I was crashing into all sorts of corners and all sorts of things because I thought, it's gonna turn adequately, but. No. The physics in this game are more true to what real racing is, and that's why for those adults who do drive or people who enjoy driving or racing, this is actually a good game for what it is. Obviously, it hasn't aged well, but this was revolutionary for its time. This is the key thing here. There's nothing quite like it, and that's what I liked about the first game, not so much the sequel, but the first game had this, and the second one built on this, and I think it's a really cool choice that you picked, Joe. So well done.
All right, thanks very much for that, Viraj. And who wants to go next? What is your drive? I forgot. My special memory of that one of that game is the fact that I was really fine in comparison to Gran Turismo when everybody was talking about Gran Turismo.
I was
that's Viraj's game. Everybody was talking about Gran Turismo and how realistic it was.
Graphics.
Colin McRae Rally was the one that showed me as a gamer and as a driver back then. This game is what we're talking about when it comes to realism. So that is my
I'm not sure about Sir Jose's first impression of Colin McRae.
Yeah.
But my first impression after seeing the footage here in my big screen, it's one of those PS1 racing games that you can actually feel like the car is real, kind of.
Absolutely.
You can actually see the wheels turning, spinning around, and turning left and right. And so on that footage, there's the dry dirt road, and there's the rainy, muddy dirt road. And on the first footage, everything was going fine, and then when it started raining, it kind of looks like the player or the driver in this case was having some trouble with handling the car because it's raining, it's muddy, simulating the fact that there's less friction. That's why you have a little bit less control of the car. Am I right on that deduction?
Absolutely. And the nice thing about it is it also simulates, the different types of terrain because of the fact that you go to different countries. There's France, there's Iceland, if I remember correctly. and other parts where you experience different types of terrain. There's gravel, there's asphalt, there's ice. You drive over ice, and there's mud. And surprisingly enough, it's the car traction on ice is better than when you're driving on mud. And it showed me, and I experienced that really here in the US when I started driving. Driving through snow is easier than driving over mud, honestly, because mud will, sorry for lack of a better word, mud will fuck you up, honestly.
Another point I will quickly raise is the game was developed by Codemasters, who are unsung hero when it comes to retro game. Nobody talks about them. The game is really well made. Everything Codemasters typically makes is gold. It's good stuff. And also, if you're interested in this game, it's cheap. Like, you can get it boxed and complete. I'm looking at it on eBay for £15. It's affordable. PlayStation is an affordable format generally for these kinds of games. So if you want to give it a punt, you might as well go for it. It's quite a cheap game to get hold of.
Agreed. Agreed. Now,
what would be your first impression of the Colin McRae rally?
It looks fun. I've heard of the game before. I've played some of the newer titles where they dropped the Colin McRae part. But like when it
which one, grid or dirt?
Dirt
is good.
Yeah. I just got Dirt 2 for like $2 or something like that.
Oh, Dirt 2 is good.
Yeah,
Dirt 3 is really good though, but Dirt 2 is really, really good. Yeah.
And then
have they released any other Colin McRae games as of late, like for the modern consoles?
Say the last one was 205 before he passed away in a
right. Oh, really? So nobody really dared to continue.
Yeah,
in 2013 they had a
name anymore because of the estate. They disallowed it, but yeah, they have continued the rally series, and as Jose said, the Dirt series.
Yeah, it just changed to Dirt. But
all right, continue, Jose. You were about to say.
It looks fun. It looks like a game I would have loved to play as a kid. But unfortunately, my when I came to PS1 racing games, I was playing Gran Turismo.
Oh, that's fine. I get
everybody else.
I might actually pick this up since Raj said it was pretty cheap. I might look it up because it looks fun. I love rally games. So
the thing about it is I've compared Gran Turismo Rally versus Colin McRae, and Colin McRae is honestly as a racer, it's so much more fun. I think you're gonna enjoy it, Jose.
I mean, based on what I know with Colin McRae now and Gran Turismo, Colin McRae kind of looks like more like an arcade game than Gran Turismo was.
Yeah, the funny thing about Gran Turismo is that it says that it's a true racing simulator, but it feels the driving feels twitchy, and as a driver, it doesn't feel accurate enough. I mean, I love how it has all these hundreds of cars that they modeled, but the driving physics, shall we say, is not as fun, personally speaking, as Colin McRae. Right. Anyway, you were about to say, Joe.
No, let's go with Sir Jose's game now.
Okay, my game of choice is Super Off-Road the Baja for the Super Nintendo. This game, it's a sequel of Off-Road, Super Off-Road, but on this game, the perspective changed to third person. So you're kind of like in Colin McRae, you're seeing the car from behind. It uses Mode 7 graphics, and it's actually the whole premise of the game. It's based on the actual Baja 1000 endurance race that takes place in Baja California. So and the songs are not too memorable, but like
who let the dogs out?
Yeah. But the fun thing about this game is that like Sir Joel was saying in Colin McRae, you have to take into account the damage that gets inflicted onto your car. So if you see you do have a damage meter, if that fills up all the way, you're done. The race is done, and you have to start over from the beginning.
That thing below the green line, so that's yellow. The damage one.
Yeah. So you got your distance, how far you got to go, and then your damage. So you do not want to have more damage than you have to go.
Of course.
And then in this game, there are other racers. He just killed that motorcycle guy, which I'll admit, as a kid, me and my brother had a lot of fun doing that.
Hilarious.
I mean, generally do want to kill motorcycle riders anyway, but continue.
Is there any penalty for killing?
You do lose money.
You lose money. Okay, there you go.
Surprisingly,
Is it really worth it?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll change the question. Does money really account to anything in this game?
Yes, because you do need money in between the races for upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Because the races do get harder, they do get longer. So you don't want to be wasting your money on all these fines you get from killing people. No jail time, but plenty of fines.
No, basically the fines go to the hospital bills of the guy.
Right? So if you are no good sociopath, then go on ahead.
Yeah, go on.
Like if you don't care for the cash, and if you're a complete psychopath, then sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
The first motorcycle that you see, go ram it.
No, the thing about it is, I'm of the opinion that if it is included in the game, it's a feature.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's not even just the guys on the ATVs. There's also like the random deer that's there, and then for some reason there's there was random spectators just standing on the side of the road.
I have a feeling that the developers of this game have some problems.
They might.
Well, not so much problems as it is they understand their audience, so they know what the actual Baja drivers want to do in the video game.
Oh, sure, because traffic safety is such a big deal in the United States.
No, honestly, it's true. In California, how strict are traffic laws over there, Jose?
They're pretty strict. There's like a lot of stuff you can't do. Obviously, you can't go around just running people down.
Of course. But in this case, with the Baja racing, it looks like it's a combination of not so much cars as they look like they're trucks of sorts.
Yes, they are
like
trucks.
A mini truck.
Yeah, I think that they are all our trucks. There's no. I think the extent of you picking a car is the color. That's it. So
you know what? At first, I thought they're like Rodimus Prime or Hot Rod.
Okay, so here you go. You can buy your shocks. I don't know what the lights do, if anything. Engine, tire, all that stuff.
Do you even drive in the dark?
I believe there is a section in the race where you do drive in the dark.
Could be kind of like in rally racing. Different times of day, they equip lights certain times of the day too. All right.
And there's a lot of jumping.
Yeah, there's a lot of jumping. If you hit the nitrous as you hit the boost, he will scream Arriba. Being in Baja, California,
of course.
But there's pickups. There's nitrous you can pick up. There's money you can pick up and all that stuff. It's just a really fun game that me and my brother used to play all the time.
It's a game of the 90s. They can get away with that. I mean, can you imagine if there's a game released today, and there's someone screaming Arriba,
right?
That game's gonna be canceled.
I remember seeing that footage of some guy wearing Mexican garb, and he goes around saying, is this offensive to you? And the people who say, there are people who say, yeah, that's really offensive and everything. But he went over to the Mexican quarter and said, does this look offensive to you? And the Mexican said, no, dude, it's cool. That's funny. Anyway, in this case, how well the gameplay itself, Jose, what is special about it that makes you enjoy it so much?
I don't know, because the driving isn't that great, honestly. It does
in it to kill the motorcyclist.
Yeah, that's probably like the best part. No, but it does take like a little bit to get used to, because it does seem a little sensitive. Graphics wise, sometimes stuff kind of blends together sometimes, so it's hard to tell like which way you're supposed to go.
Okay.
But it was just one of those games that we had, and we didn't have another game. So we just spent a lot of time with it, and it's just one of those childhood memories. Like
truck racing is fun. I've tried truck racing in games like Forza Horizon. It's definitely it definitely has a certain thrill to it too, because of how much power you have under the hood and what you can do with it. This looks like it does. This looks like it might be something that I would definitely give a try to.
Yeah, I would give it a try just so you know what it feels like, because it's kind of hard to explain.
How's the handling though? Because
No.
I mean, I'm looking at the footage right now, and based on what I'm seeing that the player is doing right now, I mean, sometimes he has full control, sometimes he
No,
doesn't.
it is weird. It's like I said, you have to get used to it, and it seems kind of like, I don't know, like you'll hit left and you'll go like all of a sudden left really bad. You just kind of like had to be tapping left and right to kind of just stay on track.
Joe brings up an extremely good point here. This one thing. There's two things about racing games that are very important when it comes to considering how much you'll enjoy a racing game. First is speed, definitely the sense of speed, exhilaration. But another really important part of it is the handling. If the car that you're driving behaves the way that you expect it to, you will enjoy it a lot. But if it kind of gets away from you every now and then, the enjoyment goes away. The twitchiness of the car that you're handling factors into how much you'll enjoy a racing game. So that is very important point, Joe. Excellent. All right, wonderful. I guess that is Jose's special memory, playing this game with his brother. Is that right, Jose?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, now we come to Viraj. Viraj, tell us about your game of choice.
I mean, it's not quite as. I mean, it's a step up from that Mode 7 atrocity you just now. To be fair, look, Nintendo. I think, well, on that platform, one thing I always envied being a Mega Drive person. I had the SNES as well, but one thing the SNES had was Mode 7, and it could handle that sort of rotating a 2D sprite to make it look 3D, and it was a nice little effect it had. I always thought that racing games, with regret, look better on Super Nintendo in terms of looks and how they perform with scaling. And that's something that Sega really did sort of struggle with the Mega Drive, which is why the Mega CD was a thing, because that could do the scaling. But you'd have to pay a premium for that as an add-on. But the scaling games on Sega CD were superior to that on SNES. It's just graphics we're talking here. But I just want to say my final thoughts on that game is a very good choice, actually, because it does show a good utilization of Mode 7. But to be fair to it, it was the early days of programming games on it's a 3D style game on a 2D platform. It's very difficult for them to get right. And I'm glad that you enjoyed that game for what it's worth, because there are a lot of games that may not have looked as good or played as well, but there's something about it. It had that X factor, didn't it? That made you want to come back to it and say something about it. So it's definitely something worth checking out. The game in question that I'm going to talk about, I mean, it's not my first racing game, as I had a number of them on Mega Drive, but this is the one that really made me want to enjoy racing games. And we're talking about Gran Turismo, the first Gran Turismo on PlayStation 1. Now, we had a discussion earlier about Colin McRae too, and there's the rally side of racing. Now, this is a true driving simulation game, the first true one that I really could say I got into and I enjoyed. The graphics, and you can see in the video, was outstanding. I think it's the most graphically enhanced video game I had ever seen. The year this thing came out, was it 97, 98? 98 it came out, I think. I love this game. I remember when my dad got it because he got like a copy from Malaysia, and I had a chipped PlayStation, so he'd get games and we'd just play them. I didn't care. I played this game like anything, and I thoroughly enjoyed this game. And there were, again, like your Colin McRae rally, you had obviously Mitsubishi, and the brands cars I could never drive here in Europe, like the Chevrolet. It's an American car, but I wanted to drive. I picked the Chevrolets. My brother was a Honda NSX types man, and it was a game that we played split screen, my brother and I. And I picked the Chevrolet, the one with the Dodge Viper stripes around the middle. I can't remember what it was called. The blue one with the white stripes in the middle. That was the fastest car. It had a 3 for handling. Yeah, look, Gran Turismo is the best-selling on PS1. I think it was actually one that, if not the best-selling, or one of the best-selling games on the platform, because it was just such a prolific title, because it was just so good-looking, and because of how it played. But yeah,
Gran Turismo is one of the showcase titles of PlayStation. Say PlayStation, Gran Turismo doesn't follow far behind. Yeah.
So there were a number of modes on this. Obviously, you got like the mode where you can play head to head, or just go for a race with the computer and all sorts of things. Or I don't know if it was called arcade mode. It's been so long now, but you just played it and you could go through all the cars. But I'd always just pick the Chevrolet. I was boring like that. But my brother would go through. He'd pick the Mazda and all of the different brands there were and all that. I'm thinking, why are you picking that car? It hasn't got a top speed of 5. What's wrong with you? But you're like, no, it handles better. And he had a point. Like, you could handle corners better with slow, like cars which might have not had that. That car might have had a better acceleration than my car as well. That's another thing as well. So there were many different stats there. And with the way the PlayStation controller was designed, you had the L and R buttons either side. So the L and R would be like gear up, gear down. So if you want to drive in manual, you can. And you could really push that car. And it taught me that manual transmission could be better than automatic because you can sort of skip gears and do all sorts of things. You get a lot more alternatives with that. So, and the way the cars move now, being a driver now, I realize this is very, very close to, I wouldn't say close to the actual thing, but they tried to make it as authentic as possible. And again, you got first person mode as well. So you can drive, excuse me, you can drive like from the driver's point of view, or you can have like a third person view, which is what I prefer because you want to see how far you are from other cars. So you had that. The other big deal about this game is the sort of simulation sort of mode where you basically race and you get money for driving or whatever, and you can upgrade your car, and you've got little challenges as well that you have to do, which is another part of this game which makes it a very, very deep game. And that was the challenging part of this game, and that's what I liked about it. You had these little driving tests you had to pass and whatnot. So I like that. I like that you had different challenging. It wasn't just like an A to B racer, So a truly triumph for the system. And it was a great head-to-head game that my brother and I and my father played. One time, I was in school doing my exams. I didn't have time to play PlayStation. My dad at the time, I think he was on leave or something, and he was playing this game every day. He goes, "Come on, want to play a race, son?" I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, man. I'll thrash you, man. You're too old for this, man." And it's a story my father loves to tell to humiliate me, but he beat me on this game. Like, on every track, with any car I'd pick, we'd aced it. And he had the advantage because one thing young me didn't understand was he drove for real life. Like that, I can't compete with that experience. And he could understand the mechanics of the car quicker than I could. He'd understand how gear changes really worked. When you flip a gear, I didn't understand that yet because I've never driven a real car. That's my excuse, Dad. But he was very proud that he beat me at this game. That's why he loves this game more than I do. But it was a great game for its time, and it's a staple for PlayStation now. We had the sequel, the third person, the fourth game when it came out, a big game. A graphical showpiece, but all the series has just gotten bigger and bigger in terms of more cars, a lot more tracks, they just added more, better graphics. Like now you got cars which have like dents and stuff on them, but I don't want to sort of get carried away. But I'm saying it's created a series which is like a prime series for the PlayStation. But this, for its time, was an outstanding game and one that you can get quite cheap, just like Colin McRae now, because it's the most popular selling game. You're going to find these all over the place. But I truly did love this game as a racing game because it offered simulation, a good head-to-head mode. If you just want to have a single race, you could, and also you could do training and all sorts of things with this. It had a lot of features in it, even though it didn't have as many cars as the sequels did or as many tracks. It was still a lot of fun.
Two questions. Actually, two things, Viraj. Does Gran Turismo 1 have rally mode?
No.
No. I remember Gran Turismo 2 did, right? Gran Turismo 2 had rally mode. And the thing about it is, to your point about your dad knowing as an actual driver, as kids, we didn't know any better. We always slammed on the accelerator full tilt. We never let up on it. We just kept that pedal to the metal. Now, as an actual driver, you realize that there's a strategy to it. You can lift your foot off of the accelerator. You can use your brakes. You can decelerate around corners. You can use your handbrake to kind of, to swing around really tight spots. So yeah, I'm not surprised. As a kid, you probably didn't know that, and that's also possibly one thing that people who have not gotten into racing games or driving games don't realize, that you're right, to the point. It's actually very tactical. There's a lot of things that go on when you're driving, and you do have to factor in a lot of things in real time, because if you don't, it's a lot of bad things can happen all at the same time.
So Kurt's made a point here in the comments section saying Gran Turismo 2 was better than the first one for me. More cars and better graphics. Audi TD was bugged as it will not decelerate on corners. So look, I concede that GT 2 was better. It's naturally going to be so much better. This is the first one, but it built upon this, and that's the point I'd like to make. But yeah, GT 2 was big when it came out as well, I remember, and so was Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. I think that's what it was called as well on the PlayStation 2. People just loved it. Just built a whole simulation. It was the driving simulation, like car series. And from what I had played before this, and it's in contrast to that, I think the only sort of simulation game was on Mega Drive that I played was Super Hang-On. And yeah, you think, what are you talking about? It's an arcade game. It had an original mode on there. We could race against like times, and you get like money to upgrade your bike and make it more powerful. And so you had that, but you also had Road Rash 2. So motorcycle games I played that had those sort of simulation modes, not car racing games. Although I know that they existed. I think they were probably mostly on Super Nintendo. There might have been some Mega Drive ones as well, but there was it's a world apart. If you look at Gran Turismo, you can't play a game like that on 16-bit hardware. No way. This is a true 32-bit game that pushed 3D racing to the limit. And then when you compare a 32-bit racing game to what came before, there's no comparison. Like this is where racing games really were a thing that you can really enjoy graphically, and graphics made all the difference when it came to racing games. Like 2D, I mean, don't get me wrong, like if you like those top-down races like Micro Machines, yeah, they have their place, and again, that's a different episode altogether, but this game really did like make my eyes widen. But wow, I was like, wow, is this it? Look at those graphics. I know now they're dated, but even now I think those graphics do hold up to a much extent. I think good looking graphics for its time, and I do think they hold up as well personally for what it was. So I was impressed by this game. So I'd say I'd give this game 2 thumbs up. Like for those who want to ever go back and look at the original Gran Turismo, like you won't feel this game sucks. You know what I mean? You might think it's a bit dated, but you can still enjoy it. So that's what I will say. And yeah, for split screen, top half, bottom half is good. You know, and you got enough screen space to play it, and you didn't feel cramped playing it. It was good. I don't know if it was more than 2 players. I think it was only 2 player split screen. I don't think it was 4 player. It was only 2 player, but I think the newer games became. I don't know, multi-tap made it 4 player. I don't know, but it was good enough for 2 players.
Mm-hmm. All right, Joe. So you're up next. Do you want to do yours, or do you want to go on your rants, or do you want to do a quick answer?
No. I mean, I'll add something about Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo was one of those first few games that my cousin had when he had his first PlayStation, and it's one of those games that I played a lot more than because I remember he had Tekken 3 and GTA 1, GT 1, and I played GT 1 rather than Tekken really. To me, it's because Gran Turismo 1 is like what if Road Fighter from the NES was made into like a real 3D game to me. Because in Road Fighter you really are racing with a bunch of cars, and then looking at Gran Turismo, I'm like, oh, this is basically Road Fighter in full 3D.
Yes,
you know, it's one of the one of the good things about the PlayStation 1 racing games, because compared to the old to the 8-bit and the 16-bit era, most of their games you can pretty much tell that the car is just stationary, and your brain is being tricked that your car is actually moving, but it's just the road that's actually moving, but the car is just there. With the PS1 racing games, you can actually see that it's not just the environment moving, but your car is actually moving with the environment as well. So, right, and between with GTA and Sir Joe's game, I still like the detail on Sir Joel's game, only because I can actually see the physics being implemented more on his game. However, only because in GTA you can act the third person view of the car, like you're really close. You really are looking closely at the car in a third person view.
Yeah.
And yeah, considering
I
that
mean,
the GTA series, considering now, I mean, it has come a long way. But you can pretty much tell that the fans really did enjoy the first one, which
yeah,
kind of explains why its longevity up until now.
yeah. I think there are some other honourable mentions for the PlayStation format, and even in the Saturn, I want to mention because we haven't covered them. And like, Ridge Racer was another one that people loved. There was Rage Racer. There was Need for Speed. Need for Speed is huge, arguably bigger than Gran Turismo. But I think they put a lot more effort when they make a Gran Turismo game. I just want to put that out there. There's a lot more in a Gran Turismo game when you look at that. But there were some other great racing games, and also on the Sega side, I mentioned Sega Rally, but there's also Daytona USA. That's another good game.
Yeah.
So you have a lot that was going on the Sega side, which we haven't really talked about, unfortunately. But there were a lot of great games out there. But I have to talk about my experiences and what I had and what I thought was an eye opener for me, my experience at the time, what I think is still a very good racing game, and that's Gran Turismo.
All right, nice one. All right, John, do you want to do an ad break or do you want to go into your rant for your choice?
You know what? Let's do an ad break.
All right, let's do it.
I mean, we're trying to shorten our program, so we'll do an out. We'll try to push my ranting right on the very end of the show. So we'll do some quick ad breaks. And after the ad break, we'll go with Sir Dan.
Yes.
His choice.
Racing game of choice, and then we'll go with Miss Eileen and Sir JDM's, and then I'll come last. All right. So take it away, Bitmap and Streamyard. Do you like playing video games? Do you like reading about history? Do you like learning about video game history? Then you should give yourself the gift of owning some video game history books from Bitmap. Since 2014, BitMap Books have published numerous colorful and well-detailed hardbound books about video games ranging from the different video game consoles of old and the various video game genres that will surely pique the interest of its core fanbase. BitMap's team of global video game journalists, players, and illustrators have produced numerous award-winning titles that celebrate the software, hardware, and developers that laid down the foundations for the billion-dollar video game industry we all know and love today. International shipping is also available with careful and considerate packaging from BitMap Books. If you don't want to take my word for it, then you can believe the people, almost 10,000 satisfied customers who submitted their glowing written reviews and video reviews after receiving their books from BitMap. By ordering your first BitMap book using our link, you will also be supporting the Timeless Gamers Show in spreading our love of video games and their rich history. Start your own online live streams, webinars, podcasts, online classes, and virtual presentations with Streamyard. By using Streamyard's user-friendly interface, you can also do simultaneous multi-streaming if you have accounts to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and other platforms. If live streaming is not your style, video and audio recordings are also available, especially with those who have variable and inconsistent internet connections. The finished output will still come out as clear and well articulated exactly as you originally intended. You can also customize the appearance of your presentation like green screen effects, facial touch-ups to smoothen out those facial blemishes, multiple cameras for multiple guests joining in the discussion, your own wallpaper on the background, adding your own logo as a watermark, sharing videos from your own computer or other website for added visual aids with or without audio, uploading your own background music if you wish to set the mood when talking, and lots more. Before you can enjoy all of the wonderful full features of StreamYard, you can start with a 14-day free trial by using our link. Not only that you are supporting the Timeless Gamer Show, but you can see it for yourself how easy it is using StreamYard.
Hello, Timeless Gamer crew. We're talking racing games. Now, being a Sega lad, enjoying my Sega stuff, I was very spoiled for racing games in my youth, growing up with Sega, because they obviously had all the super scalers, such as Hang On, Super Hang On, and the game we're going to talk about, which is my pick for today, and that is obviously the timeless classic Outrun. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Outrun. It was originally released in 1986 in the arcade, and it was developed by none other than Yu Suzuki himself. And it was a game that was actually inspired by the Cannonball Run, because racing games were generally track based. Really, we had like Pole Position and games like that, and Crazy Rider that were very focused on being a racer. Whereas Outrun, they took it across America. They took it as a game where not only did you race against opposition, but you toured the landscape. In fact, that's what Outrun really is more about. It's as much a sightseeing game as it is a racer. It's still very much a racer. It's got it's got a fantastic sense of speed about it, without a doubt, because the sprite scaling that you've got happening when you're playing this game is pretty electric. But you've also got that happening with some great views and just a wonderful tone. That kind of summery, magical vibe, and that, to be fair, Yu Suzuki, when he was researching this, he was very clever. He used it as an opportunity to get himself a tour across Europe in a BMW for inspiration, which is good grifting there, mate. I'm proud of you. But he did try to do America, but they said it were a bit empty and a bit expensive, so he went on to do Europe instead. But it gave us this fantastic game, and being a young kid growing up in the arcades, seeing this bad boy in 1986 was just phenomenal. If you look at the speed of the game, the graphics, and the feel of the game, it were like a game 10 years ahead of its time. We were still playing when games were coming out on your Mega Drive or Super Nintendo. This was still a standard that still wasn't quite touched. Games were getting there, but they still couldn't quite grasp the power and the awe that the likes of Outrun did. And it was just, bear in mind, it was also in a cab as well. And I distinctly remember as a kid, first doing them gear shifts. And it just felt incredible. Wow, I can suddenly drive. Not only am I driving, but I'm driving across America in a Ferrari with a hot blonde babe, which is a great touch. Having that bird at the side of you is such a great touch. And it made this game quite legendary, amongst us kids on Schoolyard, because it was just fantastical. I remember one kid who actually told somebody a story that he drove across America in his granddad's Ferrari. It was a known bullshitter, bless him. But I remember hearing that story and basically thinking to myself, "You've just played Outrun, ain't you, mate? You just played Outrun, or you've seen Outrun." But so it were a legendary game, and it came with legendary music too. That vibe I talked about earlier, that wonderful summer vibe. You got, first of all, you got to pick your own tunes, which were just an incredible. It would kind of like mind blowing. I remember people saying when Grand Theft Auto come out that it was so like wild you could pick your own tunes, and I'm like, well, Outrun did that kind of like 10-15 years earlier. But the tunes themselves are fantastic. I'm a Magical Sound shower, man. I love that song. I think it's fantastic. But they're all great songs, and what that variety of being able to pick your own tune made it somewhat replayable, believe it or not. It were even though if you raced the same routes, it was suddenly a slightly different experience. And what's so again brilliant about Outrun, which were freaking mind blowing back in '86, was that you had all these routes to choose from. You didn't just race along one path. You could, it was an adventure as much as it was a racing game. You could choose all these routes, all with their own different endings. So when you finally were able to beat the game, you wanted to replay it straight away because you wanted to see what these other endings brought and what these other routes entailed and what sites you were going to see. So it was kind of mind blowing. It really, really was. And it obviously got ported to a lot of. God, I don't think there's been a system that hasn't had a port of Outrun. There will have been some like PlayStation ones and that. But then having said that, you look at the legacy that it's given us, and one of my actual favorite games of all time, as well as this original Outrun, is Outrun 2 and Outrun Coast to Coast. You know what I mean? The drift mechanic that they put in them was superb. I'd probably say that these are my favorite arcade races, and there's a lot of arcade races out there. There's a lot of great races out there. So not only is the original Outrun game fantastic, but the legacy it gave us was superb. So I'd highly suggest you get some Outrun played. I mean, there's so many ways to play it. You got your Switch ports, which are great. I personally play it the most on the Yakuza 0 game because I think that port, it just, I don't know if they've tweaked it or what, I don't know, but it just feels great to me. It feels really, really great. So a lot of the earlier ports, such as the Master System port and the Mega Drive port, are good, and I really like the Master System port for what it is. But they're not a patch on the arcade original, so that's the one to go for if you're going to try it. I mean, this is a game. You don't have to spend hours on it. You just have to spend. It's good for a good 20, 30 minute go, and you get so much joy in that time. So I would highly recommend, without a doubt. As for driving games themselves, why aren't they that popular? That's a great question, and I honestly think it's a skill issue. Like most things, like most great genres, like shoot 'em ups, the shmups that I love so much, people just aren't that good at them, and they lose interest when they lose. And I think what I noticed about games in general, that they really started to get very easy in the late 90s and early noughties. A lot of harder games, harder style games, suddenly backed off and slacked off. And racing games definitely fell into that genre. Outrun is a great example of a game where if you want to finish this game on one credit, you can't slip up. If you can probably lose a few seconds here and there, but you've got to play this tight. When you crash your car and go flying. Boo! Like that. And that kind of punishment, I guess, is the word, is just too much for a lot of people. And I think modern racers have admitted that so much. But then what's happened is modern racers have evolved into a more sim-like genre, and I think that's kind of killed it a little bit, because people like me, I want to get. I'm not saying I don't want to customize cars and that. I don't mind pissing about a little bit, but generally speaking, I just want to get I want to get a speed thrill. I want to see different routes and size and stuff. I want that buzz. But yeah, I think racing games fall into the bracket of I think people feel that the punishment of them a bit, because if you spend 4 or 5 minutes racing a track and then you lose and you're omitted, people get mardy about it. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing. Racing games are fantastic. Racing games are extremely underrated. And we've basically created a generation of gamers who, if there's not a crutch there to support them, to lose interest, and I guess the crutching in a racing game isn't particularly exciting. When you level up in an RPG, it's probably a bit more impactful. You see the numbers rise and that. I mean, I guess you see your speed rise in this. I don't know, but yeah, I'm saying it's a skill issue. I just think a lot of people like easy games that do the work for themselves. Racing games, you can't. You have to stay intense and on it. Outrun, get it checked out if you haven't already, because it's a delicious game and it will forever be timeless.
You know what?
I completely agree with that on that.
You know what? Okay. When he said that it's a skill issue,
I knew he was gonna.
I was waiting for him to name drop me, throwing me under the bus, because I felt like when he said that, he was looking at me.
Yeah.
But he was just but because of what happened last time, he was just
Mhm.
being polite now, so he didn't say my name out loud.
No,
Thoughts
Well,
went
look,
to me.
well,
I
look,
could,
it's a
I could. Sorry, go ahead, Biraj. You go first. You go first.
I was actually going to choose this game because me and him were talking behind the scenes before doing this episode. And I said, Dan, I know you want to do it because I knew that was his game and it was his era. It predates me. In fact, I played Outrun after Gran Turismo, so it's only right that so Dan did it. I was more of an Outrun 2 guy, but that's a
Yes.
different discussion altogether. But I played Outrun first on the Game Boy Advance as part of Sega Arcade Gallery. It was ported on that, and it was a great game. And I thought, wow, okay. And when you talked about the music on this game, I love this game so much, right? Look, I've even got the soundtrack.
Nice. Very
Well,
cool.
Well,
The CD soundtrack. Nice.
every single port of that retro era, the Commodore
Ooh.
64,
Oh, damn.
Very cool.
Drive, Master System, it's all there. Each disc is actually holding all those memories, and it's this is like one of my favorite gaming box sets.
That's a treasure. In this era of digital media, physical will always be superior. Yeah.
This is it.
Save
And
that.
someone said you should keep the shrink wrap on, keep it. I'm like, no, it's that I actually sit this in my. This is gonna make you laugh. This is how sad I am, right? But I have a red Honda Civic, and I pretend it's a Ferrari sometimes. And
Okay.
and I sometimes I play Outrun on the A406, which is an A-class road. It has 3 lanes, just like Outrun, and I speed. And I shouldn't really be saying this, but I go a little bit faster than I should do. But only on an empty road, I'll play it safe, all right? But it's so much fun when you're listening to Splash Rave on your stereo system in the car. You've got the windows open, and you're driving.
No. Garage makes a great point on this one. When you're driving, the music that you play factors in. Now, in my case, Viraj uses his Outrun. For me, driving music sets the tone. One of my favorite driving songs will always be "She Sells Sanctuary." You know,
There's loads of drugs. This is just one example. I have so many now.
Mhm.
But I tell you what, this game was. I can understand what you mean because he talks about, when Yu Suzuki went on this trip to Europe. They sent him there to get because it's an experience game. Say we're looking at experience games in the arcades. They want something truly immersive. Space Harrier was the start of this, and this is the sequel sequel in terms of a scalar game. I made a point how I always lamented that the Super Nintendo could do scaling better than the Mega Drive, and I think that was a real shame that the Mega Drive couldn't do scaling as well as the Super Nintendo could. And it took a talented programmer to make a game look like you're going away into the vanishing point. But one thing that I think Sega had always done good is they got Outrun right, and there were a lot of spin-off games which weren't as good as the original, admittedly, in my opinion. But this game, in terms of the music, the way it played, the colors used, the immersiveness in there, I think.
It's good enough to have been included in the Yakuza Kiwami remake as one of the Sega games in there, right? There you go. The Joy's about to pull something out of it. Joy's about to pull something. There you go.
I just want to say very quickly before I move on with and let you guys say, if you want to play this game now, the Sega Ages port on Switch is the best way to play it. There are a number of ports. I've got it on Saturn as well and Dreamcast as well. It's part of Shenmue as well. So you can, I think, no, not Shenmue. It's what part of the games you can play inside the whatever it is. But the best way to play this game is it's cheap as anything now on Switch. Look at the Sega Ages Outrun port. Just type that into the eShop. You can get it really cheap. Download it, and even though they've lost the Ferrari license now, it's still a Ferrari. You know what it is. There are so many options, and it's a true arcade port and then some of that game. It's the best way to play it. That's the one to play it. Or the Sega Ages version on Nintendo 3DS. Best way to play this game because the 3D does make it look really good. It's just that this game also has its sequel, and it's very rare that I can say this, but Outrun 2 is better than the original. Okay, I said all I have to say now. Say what you want to say.
All right, Joe, you were about to say something.
Sir Jose, what can you tell us about Outrun?
Outrun,
Heard of it?
yeah, I've heard of it. I've played it. The soundtrack is amazing. I listen to it all the time too. And I really didn't get into it until there was a port on the 360 called, I think it was Outrun Online Arcade. And that's when I played that one, and then I jumped back and started playing the other ones.
What's your favorite track?
Probably the Magical Star Shower, the dance.
Sound shower.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a splash wave man.
Okay.
I like the intensity of it. That's me. Intense soundtrack.
I have PTSD playing Outrun.
Just say it. You're shit. All right. Just say it. You're shit at Outrun, and there's no shame in that because not everyone can be as good as me or the Dan.
I'll just say, after playing Yakuza Kiwami, I'm not touching this game anymore.
I mean, look. To be honest,
I'll only play it as necessary. I'll just get the trophy for playing the game. That's it. And you know what? Fuck that girl. Okay. Fuck that girl saying that if I beat her high score, she'll give me her most precious treasure, her personal treasure. And I'm like, and I was led to believe that I'm gonna score with her, right? Something else, and you can pretty much tell Kiryu was like, he was really disappointed. And I was like, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed as well, my man. I'm disappointed with Kiryu not getting laid.
Hey, she sold the idea of her letting Majima into her fantasy zone, right?
A good 30 minutes playing Outrun just to beat her high score. I'm like, this better be worth it. God damn it.
Listen, leave Clarissa alone. All right, she doesn't deserve this sort of hate. Just and you can't perform for her doesn't mean we have to hate her. All right?
Oh no.
All right.
The motivation in playing Outrun, okay, misleading me in thinking that I'm gonna score by beating her high score.
Yeah. Why don't you just stick to your RPG waifus? Yeah, because that's what you're good
at. Fine.
No, fine.
All right.
I'm not saying Outrun is a bad. I'm not saying Outrun is a bad game. I'm just saying. I'm bad.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's have a lady's perspective of what her favorite racing game is. All right, Joy, if you can bring up the footage. Sad to say, Miss Eileen couldn't make it to today's episode. She has been feeling a little bit under the weather, but she wanted to make sure that she participated in our episode as well. Let me just read her write-up. Okay. My favorite
Eileen's game is.
Yes, go ahead, Miss Eileen. Sky Roads on the DOS platform, 1993. My favorite racing game is one that hails from the DOS era. Sky Roads was developed in 1993 by Blue Moon Software from Estonia. It is actually a remake of the 1990 game called Cosmonauts, published in Sweden. You drive a ship in 10 different areas in space with 3 levels each. You can play them in any order, but the difficulty progressively gets harder. Use the directional keys to maneuver the ship. Up to accelerate, down to decelerate. Use the spacebar to jump. Sounds simple, right? The Sky Roads have obstacles, tunnels, and color-coded flooring. Dark gray prevents you steering left or right. Dark green makes you decelerate quickly. Light green, accelerate quickly. Blue refills oxygen and fuel. And light red makes you go boom. There isn't any game overs. The level will restart if your ship falls, explodes, or runs out of gas. The gas part is the racing aspect in which you essentially run against the clock. It's my favorite game mainly because I look at it with nostalgia glasses. Enjoyed it a lot as a kid on our old Intel 386 computer. Sky Roads is a fun and challenging game which has good physics considering its hardware and year of release. Since you don't run out of lives, it gives you a desire to beat all levels and improve your skills. Makes the player persevere. Try and try until you succeed, as they say. The game is abandonware and can be played via sites that has old software for download or embedded DOS games in browsers. The original Cosmonaut is free for download from Blue Moon's official website, which you can run on DOSBox. And that is Miss Eileen's racing game of choice. Pretty interesting too, but if you ask me, considering how the DOS era has had its, this is me talking now this time. The DOS era has had its fair share of racing games as well. Any thoughts, guys?
Well, you can trust me.
Kind of looks like To me, kind of looks like a primitive F-Zero.
Oh yeah.
What?
Kind of like a
Well,
primitive F-Zero.
I don't know if where you're getting the F-Zero vibes. Well, I get what you mean with the whole vehicle and all that, but it's definitely a unique game because you don't have like a track. You have to like move your car on the track. It's more of a avoiding the obstacle of falling into a ditch game, isn't it? Really, and you have to be quick. But you can trust Miss AI to pick something quite unique. I mean, I've never seen this game before, and it looks quite interesting for sure. I might have to give it a go because it looks like a racing game like no other. And there's something special about that, to be honest. But yeah, I get what you mean by F-Zero vibes, but you're literally playing on your own, and there are obstacles and there are challenges in regards to like what you can and cannot do in terms of color-coded tracks and all that stuff. That's quite cool. But I can see why it's abandonware because I think for its time it might have been a bit too complex for a lot of players. And like what Sedan said in previous videos, people do not like losing. Okay, especially people like Sir Joe. Especially if you can't get the girl, he gets really upset. Right, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, I think Miss AI has quite an interesting game. This could get me hypnosis. This could hypnotize me.
How about you, Zia? How does this game come across to you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I first saw this game. She actually streamed it once, and I'd never heard of it. And I always know she's a big person that's into DOS games. So I always know like when she plays a DOS game, it's gonna be something unique, something fun. And even her, I was watching this. She had a lot of trouble with it too. She kept dying. So like all the infinite lives really comes in handy because she'd be able to readjust to what she was doing. It's an interesting game for sure. And I keep meaning to try it, and it completely had slipped my mind until it was brought back up. So I'm gonna have to actually go and download this and give it a try.
How about you, Joe? Personally speaking, if I may interject, it does remind me of these modern mobile games, the infinite runners, the ones that you see that you play on your cell phone. It does remind me a little bit of that with the way that power ups happen, with how the car speeds up, how it slows down, and everything. How you have to avoid obstacles. It reminds me of, maybe it's the spirit of this one, Skyroads, that is present in modern mobile infinite runner games. I guess that it comes across like that for me, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of modern infinite runner games take inspiration from games like this. Joe.
Looking at the gameplay footage right now, it's just a game that goes straight. Like there's no hard turns. I mean, yeah, sure, you can turn from. You can jump from left and right, but the road still pretty much goes straight. I'm thinking it would have if the developers improved on the gameplay, maybe they could have added some sharp turns just to add more challenge onto it. But yeah, I mean, it's not like you're just aiming straight. I mean, there's method to the madness. There's purpose for every color that you're trying to jump onto.
I find it
And
how you want it to be more challenging when I know deep down you would still suck at this game.
I know, I
I find it
know.
funny.
I mean, if to those people who think that it kind of looks simple just by looking at it, like Sir Jose mentioned, if Miss I had some trouble with it playing, I mean, for something such simplistic as it is now, imagine if they've added some hard turns into it, right?
You don't fall off, and I can see you falling off straight away.
Yeah,
I
like a
think
lot,
you
a
had this.
lot.
So
A
the
lot.
fact that you say they could make it more challenging is outrageous. You couldn't even play it like this is, and now you want a challenge? Goodness me, you're crazy.
No. I mean, if people were more masochistic about themselves, then sure. Mm-hmm.
It's
All
something
right,
you
well.
do, though. Are you trying to say you're a masochist? Is that what you're trying to say? Why don't you just admit it here? Look, in front of everyone.
Oh no, I'm not. No. I'm neither S or an M.
Oh,
All right.
I'm vanilla, really.
say that face
Before we
value.
before we can get deeper into that discussion, I think JDM was able to submit some information, right? JDM had his submission as well. Joe, do you have it ready?
Yep, we got it right here. So unfortunately, Sir JDM also cannot make it today, but he did submit it his entry. So I'm reading his words out loud to describe his game, and his game is called Motorhead Gremlin. So Motorhead Gremlin released for the PC and the PS1. So what we're about to show you right now would be the PC footage of it. Okay, because we've been showing a lot of PS1 games lately. So Motorhead Gremlin Interactive. It's for the PC and the PlayStation. Written by Juan DeMarcus. All right. Motorhead is a near futuristic racing game from 1998. It's just your typical arcade racing with fictional cars. No licensing infringement guaranteed, though. I love the ambience of the racetracks, courses, and there are no loud announcers screaming in the background, like most of them do. The soundtrack is a default Eurobeat genre. You can feel the adrenaline rush, but still enjoy the view all the same time. The cars are your typical polygon models with at least three different colors. Um, Imagine a colorful Tesla Cybertruck. You'll get the picture. Overall, the gameplay mechanics are easy to understand. Accelerate, brake, coasting, it's all in there. No nitrous available here, unfortunately. Just pure skill and wit to outrun your opponents. If you're a fan of arcade style racing and retro punk aesthetics, this is a game you might want to have your stick shift on. More gaming racing puns right there. And that's all he has to say regarding Motorhead dash Gremlin Motorhead from Gremlin Interactive.
This looks really
Thought,
good.
gentlemen.
I think I want to play this. Yeah.
PC
Mhm.
98.
Mhm. And for those of you in the audio portion of the podcast, it does look like a cross between a modern game called Blur. I'm not quite sure if anybody's familiar with that
It
one.
does.
And yeah, there is no nitrous like JDM says, so it's pure skill. You have to the controls though do look a little bit floaty, but I'm willing to give a little bit of adjustment on that one.
There's a lot of neon. It kind of gives me some Tron vibes.
I mean, it's neon is huge when it comes to racing, retro racing. I mean, take a look at my background, right?
All right. Although, I mean, it is 1998 from a PC game. It kind of does look floaty. It's like
Yeah, it does look floaty.
you know how I mentioned earlier, like from the PS1 games, like they really do like when the cars really look like they're moving on the ground. This is the complete opposite of that to me. It's like they're just sliding.
I mean, look, it's pretty to look at, I suppose. But let's be honest here. It's a very mid game for the PlayStation 1 compared to like what we just discussed earlier. But I think it's just a bit of fun. If you want something simplistic, this is it, isn't it? It's actually quite affordable as well. I just looked at the price on eBay. It's about £20 complete. PlayStation 1, one good thing about that format is because it was so successful, because so many of these games were printed, and there's still quite a number of them floating about, you can get games for this quite cheap. So if you want to give this a punt, it's worth it. I like the dark colors. I like that it's got this sort of like urban sort of. I don't want to use the word neon, a neon look almost, but it's got like a darker look. There's no like bright lights or anything. It's not the most colorful game, but it's got definitely a darker look to it. So I like the color. I mean, there are a number of games like this. Like let's talk about Wipeout for a moment. You got Wipeout Vibes, which is a PS game. This is obviously cars rather than like futuristic, floaty vehicles. So yeah, I'm sure it's a lot of fun, but I think you know, if you haven't got Gran Turismo or Ridge Racer or you know, if you've had fun with those in Colin McRae Rally or whatever, this might
Now
be
this
like
falls squarely in the arcade racing feel, much like Outrun, I guess, you know.
I mean,
And
you've got Ridge Racer, haven't you?
Ridge Racer, yeah, Ridge Racer too, yeah, that's true.
It's an arcade game, and I'd say that's probably better than this. But I suppose if you're looking for something that you haven't played before, other than the games that we've mentioned, you want to give this a go, and you're
Yeah, I think I will. Yeah, definitely. This one, I definitely give this a go. Thanks for that one, JDM. How about you, Jose? Does this look like it appeals to you? I mentioned Blur earlier. Does it give you that vibe as well?
Yeah, it does. It gives me that Blur vibe a lot. It does look floaty, like you guys were saying, but you know, it is futuristic. Maybe the cars are floating for real, and the tires are just there for aesthetics. But it does look like something I would give a try. I did find it on the Abandonware website, so
nice.
That's a way to get it.
It's like the cars that you'll see in Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. Yeah. All right. Excellent choice. Thanks so much for that one, JDM. Sad to say you couldn't make it today. I like how that's another thing about here in Timeless Gamer. You discover things that you normally would not have enjoyed in the past. You might want to give it a try in the future. All right. And now we come to the rant portion of the episode. Joe, I want to hear your opinion and your choice of racing game.
All right. So this is a segment where where I bitch and moan about the games that I don't usually play, but for the sake of the show, I'll play them. Okay, so I'm an RPG guy, as you guys know, and I'm like, is there any like a racing driving game out there that has RPG elements? And
there is.
There were, according to some forums, there were two. Okay, so there's Racing Lagoon for the PlayStation 1 and Final Twin Lap for the TurboGrafx 16. So I got those two first to try out. Racing Lagoon, Racing Lagoon. So made by Square. Hey, king of RPGs, right? They decided to make like a racing game, RPG style. Sure, okay. Product of its time. The character sprites it's kind of look they kind of look like Tekken 1 characters, like it's really janky, really polygonized characters, really misproportioned body characteristics. Anyway, racing in terms of the racing, oh my god, okay. One of the like Sir Joel mentioned, so if it's not the speed, it's the handling. So I'm not sure if it's my controller or it's just me. Most likely it's me. But apparently, on your initial race, with and I played this with my PS1 Classic, and for the life of me, every time you press the left and right button ever so slightly, the car just moved really jittery all over the place. Like I just tapped the left and the right button ever so slightly, and the hood of the car just takes a nosedive all over the place.
Yeah.
So and I'm like, I checked I checked some of the forums, and apparently there are some people having have some control problems with Racing Lagoon, and some suggested it might have been the LCD screen. How there might be some lagging issues with the controllers. Some say that depending on where you plug the PS1 Classic, like for example, if you plug the power cord into an actual power port, it may resolve some of the lag. I tried that, didn't do anything. Okay, and I'm like, so apparently, because Racing Lagoon is more of an RPG kind of game, you treat your car as your RPG character, like really low level. The purpose of the race would be every time you win a race, you get to keep one of their car parts for yourself, so you can upgrade your car. Okay, the more upgrades you get, the more control you'll get for your car. So apparently, it's designed that way. It's designed for you to suffer first, okay, before you can actually race properly. And I'm like, fuck this. I ain't no got ain't no I and this is the segment that we like to call "Ain't nobody got time for that."
Ain't nobody
Fuck
got
that.
time
Ain't
for
nobody
that.
got time for that. Okay. So I tried Final Twin Lap for the TurboGrafx 16 PC Engine, and on that game, there's two modes on it. So there's the straight up racing game, and there's the RPG kind of game. So on the so straight up racing, of course, on that one. For the RPG aspect of it, it's like Pokemon. Like there's this your grandpa's like, okay, I think you're ready to race. Go out there, race some people, uh, build a name for yourself. So there's this overworld map that you'll just walk around all over the place, and every now and then there's random encounters, people challenging you for a race. It's just a one-on-one race between you and the other person. What I've and this goes to all of the TurboGrafx PC Engine games. Like because I don't have any manuals for all of these games unless I tend to look them up. So apparently,
Yeah.
depending on where you keep oh sorry about that. Oh, so depending on where you keep this what do you call this, Viraj? This notches here,
They're called turbo buttons, turbo switches.
the turbo buttons. Yeah, because I have this controller for my PC Engine,
Yeah.
and depending on where I put the levers,
Yep.
sometimes the car doesn't move at all.
Yes, that's right.
Sometimes the car moves ever so slowly, and sometimes the car will just go fast. And because I'm not really looking at the manuals
Oh,
on which
yeah.
setting that I should put these
Because you
levers
can
in.
yes, because you
Yeah,
can't
most
read.
of the time I tend to lose, and I'm like, and every once in a while I tend to go trial and error which combination I should use for buttons 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just lose whenever.
The turbo switches are there
Um,
for ups. They're not there for racing games, and they can mess you
yeah,
up a bit. They can make you go fast and suddenly put the brakes on because they're just intermittent sort of thing. And what you've done is it's like basically you're pressing the A button twice, so it's like accelerating and stop, accelerating and stop.
right.
That's why turn the
The-
switches on. So you're meant to turn them off. It's kind of common sense, really, but that's your
No,
failing.
that's what I mean. It's not something that you can just play and just intuitively,
Well, it is.
and you'll be expecting some results. But no, because I'm using this controller, I have to look them up.
I mean, if you just turn the switches off, you'd be fine. But anyway, please continue.
I don't know. I mean, even so, like I mentioned, even if I turn both of them down for some reason, it's either going fast or not move at all, or just move slowly.
Hmm.
So I tried that, and I tried other. Oh, I said, okay, I'll try some Sega Saturn games. Okay,
Yeah.
and the one game that I disliked the least, there you go, is a game called Tog King the Spirits for the Sega Saturn.
Hmm.
That's the Japanese game, the Japanese title of it. And
Okay.
the Americans were like, what the fuck does that mean? We'll change that. We'll call it High Velocity. High Velocity for the Sega Saturn. Basically the same game. Okay. The only thing that the Americans changed was the scenery. That's it. But it plays exactly the same. Um, so it's a Saturn game. So despite of the blockiness, it's a product of its time, just like in the PlayStation. However, what I found with High
Just showing,
Velocity is that
just showing a
I
little
can
bit of the footage of Racing Lagoon for our video portion,
uh,
ladies and gentlemen.
that's the Racing Lagoon.
Yeah. Anyway, continue, John.
Uh, with High Velocity, I found driving in first person view. I tend to respond more. Handling's top notch, of course. Handling's top notch. That's why I like the. I kind of liked it. Okay. Unfortunately, with High Velocity, you're only racing with only one vehicle, and to me, a racing game is racing with a bunch of cars. Okay. Um,
Nice graphics.
because I'm because I usually because I'm driving now. And unlike, so we mentioned before, as kids back then, all we care about is just speed. We could care less about technique. We could care less about cutting corners or making that hard turn. Hey, our cars are invincible. We could crash. That's fine. But no, because I'm driving now. All right. The fastest I could go is 100 kilometers per hour. Okay. And one time I tried not decelerating from a 60 kilometer per hour, and I did a left turn, and and literally I felt the car flew up a little bit, gave me the
We're
scare of my
talking
life.
real life here, Joe.
We're talking about real life here,
Oh,
and I'm
okay.
like, yeah, I'm talking about real life here. Um, so when I'm driving in a first person view, I kind of when I'm driving in first person view in high velocity, by instinct, I tend to press the brakes more rather than looking at it on a third person view like this. So in the first person view, I tend to use the brakes more when I decelerate making those turns. So what I'm trying to say is it kind of because I'm driving now. I kind of use those sensibilities when I'm playing when I was playing this in particular. I only chose some of the unknown, lesser known, underrated games. I don't want to do with the Gran Turismo, the Ridge Racers. Forza, those games are a given. I just want to showcase some of the games that the other panelists won't mention, or some of those games that you know didn't get much of an attention compared to the other mainstream racing
This
games out there.
game
So
got high
yeah,
sales in Japan. It did
high
well in Japan.
velocity.
He did very well in Japan. This game. It's just a shame in the West
Mm.
we didn't get as much appeal. That's the truth. But that's because the Saturn wasn't popular in the West, so that reflects the sale of the system. But this game was very successful in Japan. It's just obviously because we're not Japanese, we don't really sort of know this. But it does look. What I like is the lighting effect of that game, where you can see the street lamps and all that. That wasn't very common in that era, and I think it was on the Saturn as well, which was nice as well. But interesting choice. Interesting choices you've chosen. But you know.
See, there's no tits and ass in there.
I mean, I'm amazed that you picked a game that was quite clean. So well
It's
done.
quite halal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello.
Viraj was completely expecting Joe to bring up a racing game where where boobies were front and center.
There's babes that come out, in the bikinis, and they're like got the little signs.
It was easy for me to do that, but no, I chose to be a gentleman this time. I
Fine.
chosen the high road this time.
Okay. All right. So good choices, Joe. I actually am interested in high velocity. I think I want to give that one a shot.
I'll give it
Definitely.
a go myself.
Yeah. It looks like it might be a lot of fun, and I think it's something that I'll
I
probably
would
be
I
back
would
for.
suggest, gentlemen, try the Japanese version because
Japanese.
because the American version they tried to Americanize everything. Because in the Japanese version they really made sure that they showcase the actual country where you're actually driving. Where in the American version they tried to make it look more urban.
So they butchered it basically. They butchered
Yeah, kind of, I guess.
Mm.
All
I
right.
played the
So,
I played the Japanese version really.
Yeah, I know why you looked at the Japanese one, because you was hoping that there'd be something.
I was looking for. I mean, maybe they slipped something in there. That's why the Americans kind of censored it. Okay.
games like that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Why do you? Okay, I was wondering. Okay, the Americans changed some stuff. What are the things that they changed in the Japanese version? Are there anything in there? No, it's just the scenery that they changed. Really, I'm like, what's wrong with this one?
all right. So getting back though, why has Dan posited that one of the main reasons why racing games as a genre hasn't really taken off in the general populace is how you have to be 100% present in the game at every single second, and that's a fair assessment. Now in my case, I believe that in the Philippines in particular, I'm speaking about the Philippines, as a gaming population. Filipinos tend to not be into racing games, possibly because of the fact of the stigma of people who play racing games having that, I guess, upper strata type of personality, the conyo personality. People tend to not like that dude, I raced my Impreza yesterday down down this road, and it really went sideways, man, while he's drinking his Starbucks or whatever was
Just
popular.
to add some context into that, we
Mhm.
do have those like actual racing, the ones with the wheels and the actual
Yeah.
pedals in there. We
Mhm.
actually have those arcade machines,
Mhm.
but you
True.
don't see a lot of people
Mhm.
driving, playing on into those. My
Surprisingly.
theory, my
Mhm.
theory, number one, the
Mhm.
game's just that hard, and for every token,
Mhm.
and the moment you crash, that's it, game
True.
over.
There's also that.
You just
Yeah.
move to the next game.
True.
And
There's
if you're the type of person who just like, oh, I just want to try this out, and the moment you crash, right immediately, you just lose interest.
yeah.
You won't do
That
the next game.
that goes to Dan's point. That's true. You were about to say, Raj.
I want to throw something else in here. Racing games for me, and this is going to be controversial with what I'm making. So you're talking absolute rubbish. You're wrong, but some people will say that. But I think racing games is kind of parallel when it comes to sports games. Okay, we got that in terms of a genre; it's its own thing. And that racing games have a huge following. Let's be honest here, but it's a certain type of game that will always go for their forces, and it's the adult game that likes it. And the racing games that we've discussed, and let's be honest here, we've been quite narrow with the subject matter. We haven't talked about kart races, and there's so many other subgenres of racing games that a lot of games are more prone to.
There's a lot of different genres of racing. That's true.
Correct. So
Yeah.
the Mario Karts and all that stuff, and that is a lot of that. Those sell really well, okay, for Nintendo. But if we're talking about like proper simulation stuff, it's a mature audience that would really go for that, and they are popular. Otherwise, they wouldn't make them, and they wouldn't spend millions developing them. Like Gran Turismo, like the newer ones, are so great now, and we're talking about like we're talking about it as a genre now. And I think it does go hand in hand with sports. And I think it's a certain type of game that will go with it. Someone like this loser down here who sucks at them will never buy them. Yeah. Never really into it. He's not really going to be invested because he just likes his RPGs. He's into these adventure stuff because he just doesn't have the skill set because he sucks. And he just wants to see anime women as well. There's no anime women in racing game. For him, it's a soulless enterprise. Yeah. That's the truth. I mean, that's the polite way of putting it. He's not disagreeing with me because he agrees because he doesn't really care about it. He doesn't give a damn. Like as far as he's concerned, he wants to play a game where he wins and he can get the girl. That's the most important thing for this one here. So different people have different identities.
You can't fault him for that. Can't fault him for that.
So Joe, I'm not making fun of you. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Good for you. You play the game you want to play and enjoy. Okay? Me, with racing games, it has to be with someone. I don't want to play a racing game on my own. There's no joy. There's no fun in that. You have to play with someone and look in their face thinking, I beat you, bitch.
No, that's true. Like I said earlier, when we said racing games, I really wanted to race with other cars.
Mhm.
I don't want to race with just one car. Sometimes with some of the games that I played earlier, it's just you. That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, like what's the point of this?
Mhm.
It's got to be a competitive enterprise or cooperative or something. Like for example, like I know I'm wearing off here. Like Mario Kart Double Dash, you actually had two people on one car. One would do the throwing the shells, and one would drive the game. There was a lot of fun with that. So there has to be a bit more to it to people like us rather than the simulation aspect. And it can become quite daunting if you're just playing on your own, unless you're dedicated to the craft that is racing and car racing, whatever it is. So
Right?
it's a specific thing. It is like sports games, and you have to have more than one person to play against.
Yeah, racing games are a competitive game, supposedly, but in theory, it's supposed to be it's a competitive game.
You are a single player. You play RPGs. It's a single player craft for you. So Joel, again, I would say that I'd say all of us are probably very much into single player games, and racing games are fun when you're playing with someone, and that's really as simple as that. So whilst so Dan says, "Oh, they've been made easier" and all this sort of stuff, I haven't played enough of them to sort of confirm that what he's saying is true, because I don't think it's true at all. It depends on the racing game in question. I think it's to do with the fact that with racing games, they were a novelty when they came out, and they were really fun when the PlayStation era was going on and whatever. And my dad got it for us, and it was a lot of fun. But my racing library The only thing that I've actually bought is racing games for the kart races because they're fun. They add a different spin on it, and it's actually something that isn't something I can do in real life. I drive in real life. I already told you. I put the Outrun soundtrack on and speed on the highway like I'm playing Outrun when I go to see my parents sometimes. Whereas a kart racer, I can't throw a banana peel and make a monkey flip over. I can't. Sometimes for me, it's a case of look, racing games, unless you're dedicated to it as a sport or something, and you're into like the whole high speed aspect of it or rally and all that, you have a love for that sport area of competitive racing, or you're playing with someone. It's not fun to play experience unless you're really into it. It's not worth it.
I was gonna say that if you want multiplayer, don't go for a rally game. Go for a rally cross game. Look for rally cross. That would be where you're racing against other people. Jose, I want to hear your opinion very quickly. Why do you think racing hasn't really caught on in the general populace as a game genre?
I think everyone's made a lot of good points where it's like it's a skill issue type of thing. You don't want to play something that you're not good at. Like if you're not good at fighting games, you don't want to play fighting games.
True.
And a lot of the time too, I think like some people, like for me, like I know a lot of my friends, they find them boring. Like especially like like you're kind of just doing the same thing over and over. You're going on the same track for so many laps.
Yeah.
There's not much variation to them. Some of us find that really fun. A lot of people don't. And then again, you don't want to play by yourself. It's boring. That's like playing a fighting game by yourself. You always want to have someone to compete against. So
right,
you have all these different factors where just racing, that too, it falls in the sports category, and right away people are like, I don't like sports games. I'm not going to try that. So.
Okay.
One way to look at it probably would be if you're doing a racing game by yourself, it's just you versus the course.
Yeah,
true.
If you're playing with someone else, you could care less about the course. All you care about is trying to beat the other guy.
Yeah,
and that's the whole point of a racing game.
I just want to throw this out there. For me, many years ago, I went to the arcades here in London, and they had the Outrun 2 SP edition, Special Tours edition, and there were 4 cars, like literal cars you'd sit in, and there'd be a big monitor, and you play against all these other people, like kind of Daytona. Sega have these big arcade things where you can actually sit in. You felt like you're driving the car. It was fun, and it became my favorite arcade game, Outrun 2 SP. And the reason it became my favorite is because I beat all those bitches next to me. I thought, boom. And I was in Ferrari Enzo, and they picked whatever car they wanted, and whatever Mandino Ferrari, whatever. I'm looking at the guy next to me, and he's like looking at me, and like, yeah. And then I'm like power slide just past him and all that. It's fun playing with people competitively, and then getting
when was the last time you've seen someone who's actually driving one of these like for example Daytona USA, right?
Yeah,
you're actually playing, and then someone comes in, sit there next to you, put a token in, okay, and just give you a bad look, and then it's on, bitch. When was the last time that happened? Like, it's not unlike those fighting, unlike those Tekken or Street Fighter or Marvel versus Capcom games, where people can just openly challenge you one-on-one.
Now you're making me think of an 80s movie called Better Off Dead, but I digress. So there's a lot of racing games, honestly, up to the PlayStation 1 era. We haven't even touched the beginning of all the other genres either. Lots of different types of racing franchises, like the Test Drive series, the Need for Speed series, lots of them. And of course, we have limited ourselves to the era of PlayStation 1. If you guys want a further discussion and newer games, like we talked about, Jose and I talked about the Dirt series, the Forza Horizon series, other racing games like The Crew, let us know in the chats. Let us know in our channels. Can Driver? We have a question here. Can Driver be considered a racing game? Not necessarily, Neil, because I classify that as a GTA type of racing game.
Yes, you're racing against the clock, and you're doing missions as well, and you have to do.
Yeah, you have to do missions there. So not necessarily.
And spoiler alert: you end up killing the president at the end of the game. That's not an ethical thing.
Yeah. So, but then again, if you guys want to talk about that kind of genre, let us know here in Timeless Gamer. Let us know in the chats. Let us know through our email. Let us know through, just walking up to us and giving us a punch in the face and let us tell us. We want you to talk about GTA types. Okay. So, yeah, we will talk
Oh
about what you guys
fuck! Are we going to talk about the GTA games? Fuck
We
yes.
could talk about it, yeah. But yeah, in closing, that is racing video games, the exhilaration, the thrill, the chase, the speed, the handling, the terrain, the challenge of shaving off an extra second from your time or beating that bitch right sitting right next to
That's
you.
right. That's right.
That is video game racing games. And we have only started scraping the very top layer. If you guys want to talk about it more, let us know. And we are closing it off. Joe, bring us home.
Let's do some shameless plugs. Let's go with Sir Viraj. Where can they find ya?
You can find me on the Sega Genesis group on Facebook. You can find me on the Sega Mega Masters channel on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter at Bygone Games UK. If you want to just follow me there. And I'm actually a reseller of video games. That's something I do on the side. So I'll be at the London Gaming Market November 10th for those of you in the UK who are really into purchasing retro video games. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Viraj. And how about Sir Jose? Where can they find ya?
I'm on Twitch as Dark Gothic Fate, right there. I'm also I have a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, and then we also have a Discord if anyone wants to join in. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Jose. And of course, our lead mechanic driver for this episode, Sir Joel.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody who decided to stay all the way to right now. You can find me in, here all the time here at Timeless Gamers. And you can find me at my Facebook page, Banyagi Native, Twitch channel occasionally. Every now and then I have been streaming recently. Twitch, Banyagi Native, kick.com, Banyagi Native. But, Facebook, can screw right off. Hashtag FUFB. But yeah, you guys let us know what you guys want to hear, what you guys want to talk about. We are always open here in Timeless Gamer, and we will always do our very best to educate and entertain our audience. All right, Joe, take us home.
Thank you for that, Sir Joel. And for all of you guys, if you have any comments, suggestions, or valid reactions to what we just contact us by going to our email timelessgamers.show@gmail.com. And thank you all so much for staying all the way to the very end. Next week will be our Halloween special. We're going to talk about video games with zombies in them. Okay? Might be a character, might be the enemy. Who knows? So we will deal with that, and then the next week after that will be our Yakuza, the Amazon show review, right? And how the show is being judged in congruence with the actual Yakuza games. So that's what we have lined up as of now. And thank you all so much. Again, BitMap Books and Streamyard. And as always, our games and our bodies may grow out of date, but our gaming experiences will forever remain. Hey!
Timeless. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. See you guys again next week. Bye.